Hello once again, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome once again to Sober Talk Live. For those who are not familiar, Sober Talk Live happens every Thursday night here on the Prince Magnum channel at 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, US. So, if you are brand new, welcome to the live stream and welcome to Sober Talk. In this particular live stream of Sober Talk, I'm going to tell my story because I purposely, well, we'll talk about it here in just a moment. What's going on, Think Different? Oh, it's so good to see you. Tonight's Sober Talk, I'm going to tell my story, what I was like. I purposely let a little bit of it slip yesterday because I knew what I was going to be doing today. Remember, I'm really good at acting. I'm really good at acting, but who I once was and compared to who I am today, two totally different ball games. So we're going to have a lot of fun tonight as I tell my story because wow, I have definitely went through a lot of changes over the years. A lot of people, y'all would not believe who I once was. What's going on, Queen? You know what's up. Welcome to the live stream. Real quick, let me get you caught up to speed. I talked to our boy Gavin John. Gavin John and I actually had a a Facebook Messenger conversation where we actually talked, about what's kind of going on and everything. And him and I have actually been working together. We're on the case of our troll because our troll. Well, it's not important right now. We're on that case. We'll talk about that at the end of all of this. The main focus tonight is I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to tell the story of how what I was once like, what happened, and what I'm like now, as we say in AA. Thank you. So I'm doing great. I'm doing great. It's been a good day so far. Of course, any day above ground is a good day. Any day sober is a good day. Y'all know how I feel about that. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for this stream. It's going to be a lot of fun today. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. Uh, I seen a gamer in. He was telling some of his stuff, and earlier today he put a video up, really good video. I'm like, dude, I'm almost sitting there going, I want to hear your story, man. He's got an amazing story from what he just told. Story time, where's the popcorn? Yeah. I did tell some friends that I was going to be talking about sobriety tonight. Um, yeah, I saw that video too, and it's good video. I'm like, wow. I mean, I thought, I'm good at talking on camera and telling stories and things like that. Our boy Ian, gamer, and he's a guy. I think he could tell a hell of a story. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was impressed. I'm like, wow. I don't think he realizes that he's got, I have this way of presenting myself, and that's just years of AA under my belt. That's just years of AA and public speaking. But our boy Ian, he's just, wow. He's got an amazing way of doing things, and I'm very impressed, hands down, bar none. Also tonight, you guys will see moderators. I'm going to leave a lot of stuff in your hands because this story is important to me. It's my story. Uh, but if we're going to have some certain people that may drop in, some actual larger channels, some friends that I know, some bigger channels here on YouTube. If that is the case, we're going to have to take a quick trip out to Project Spirit and take a quick walk around. So think different. You're going to get to see Spirit anyways in this stream, if that pans out. We might do it anyways because cars and sobriety go hand in hand for me. But we're going to kind of wait till closer to that 10-minute marker, and then we're going to really kick this off proper and really crank this up. Last couple of sober talks haven't been as big as they normally are, but that doesn't mean that they won't get big. We just kind of, it's one of those things we kind of expected, that a lot of people will start filing in, usually around the half an hour marker. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, it just kind of depends. It kind of depends, real quick, I was looking at some numbers this morning, and we are holding right now for our watch time. I'm holding out just a little bit above 500 right now because it's that 28-day thing, and I'm kind of holding that timeline right there. So I'm holding up okay as far as that goes. Really? Think different. You've got my email address. Give me a shout. You're in my neck of the woods. I'll give you my phone number. You know that, man. You're in my neck of the woods. I'll give you my phone number, and if you need me, I mean, holler. Aircraft Remover is your favorite series. Well, thank you, Miss Jennifer. I appreciate that. Let me tell you straight up, Aircraft Remover I was actually talking about it today with our boy Gavin John, and I was telling him that when I know it's all right, buddy. It's all right, you know that if you need me, I'm only a phone call away. Okay. If you need me, just holler. Okay. I will be glad to listen to whatever's on your mind, what's eating you up. The secret is you call me before you drink. That's the secret, and I mean, if I got to come get you or something, I will, you know, I'll come get you. It's not a problem. We'll get you, HQ, the door is open for you, man. You know that. But let me tell you about Aircraft Remover. Aircraft Remover, literally, hang on a second. This particular can is actually the can we use in the aircraft remover series. It literally is aircraft remover, and what it really is it's an actual industrial grade paint stripper, more or less. They use it on airplanes, and hence the name aircraft remover. And a lot of people on YouTube use it for all sorts of crazy stuff. And I'm a child of the '80s. Yeah, lids on tight. Lids on tight. We're okay. We're safe. Don't have to worry about taking out any starships. But what happened was we were getting ready to use it on Project Spirit. We knew we were going to be using it on Project Spirit, and I was sitting there, looking at it, kind of like this, sitting here at the office. I was editing some video, and I'm looking at aircraft remover, and then it hits me. My '80s childlike mind kicked in, and not a joke. I'm sitting there going, aircraft remover, and then I was thinking of stuff exploding. What's going on? DJ Queen, Elevator Crazy. Welcome to the live stream. Welcome to Sober Talk. I was actually, we're just kind of waiting until that 10-minute marker before I really kick this off. And I was telling the story to someone here in chat, Miss Jennifer, how aircraft remover I am doing fantabulous. It's a great, well, I'll just say it. It's Sober Talk. It's a perfect time to say it. I woke up today and I had a miracle happen to me. I found it not necessary to take a drink. Any day that happens, it is still a miracle. That is honest to goodness true. Any day that I don't find it necessary to take a drink, it is still a miracle. Hands down, bar none. That is the honest to goodness truth. After 14 years, it is still a miracle if I don't get up every morning and want to take a drink. That is the honest to goodness truth. But I was telling the story of how aircraft remover came along, and like I said, I'm a child of the '80s. So as I'm reading this, I knew that day we were going to be stripping the paint off of the taillight panel for Project Spirit, and as we were looking at it, I'm like, okay, I knew at a certain point that I wanted to film that shot. Princess Faye actually will tell you that she, honest to goodness, did not know what I was doing when I did that shot. I tried to explain it to her, and it's one of those things until you see it in, when it goes up, then, you get it, but it was one of those things when I shot it, she had no idea what I was going to be editing. And then when she seen it, it was at the tail end of where I edited that video on Project Spirit and how that taillight panel came together. So it was literally that clip when I sat Princess Faye down and showed her that clip with a helicopter exploding. She's like, okay, that is really funny. That is absolutely really funny. She's like, that's clever. She couldn't laugh. She was like, it's funny and it's so clever how you did that. And then, when I posted the video, everyone's like, they did not know what to expect. And it just kind of became its own running gag from there. So that's how Aircraft Remover really got its start. So if you ever wondered about that, that's how it got its start. And it started the helicopter that explodes at Aircraft Remover 1, the original. That's actually from a Canon Films movie, literally called American Ninja, and it's at the tail end of the movie, and it's really funny. I mean, I love that whole shoot, wrong button, wrong button. Don't look at the mess on my desk. Okay, so if you were wondering about that, that was how Aircraft Remover came about. Now, I have not edited Aircraft Remover 12, but I know we're getting close to the original. The original. Well, okay, DJ Queen, you're gonna love this. Okay, I save all of my videos that I post. The lives I don't worry so much about. I mean, I could always go in and rip them from YouTube if I need to, but oh, that's yeah, we're on posted. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay. You'll have to excuse Renegade style to show you this, but you'll get the general gist of it. Okay. This is the original Aircraft Remover. That's the original Aircraft Remover from my channel. And it kind of became its own. Right. That clip of that helicopter exploding is literally from the movie from the 80s called American Ninja. I figured it was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. Michael Dudikoff. I mean, I don't think he'll ever get credit for how amazing of an actor he was. Honestly, I think he should have been playing, if they had to choose anybody, he should have played He-Man instead of Dolph Lundgren in the Masters of the Universe movie in the 80s. I think he would have done a better job. He's more believable with a sword in his hand. Well, we are now up to Aircraft Remover 11. And I will tell you all, if you see the Aircraft Remover with the Death Star exploding, that means we're at the end of the regular Aircraft Remover series. And then that means we're getting ready to go into the second series. And the second series is going to be kind of more goofy, a little bit. My sister is actually helping me with these, getting some ideas. We have one that starts the regular series, and literally it's Anakin Skywalker saying, "Don't underestimate my power," and then Aircraft Remover, and then you see him lying on the ground screaming in agony because he's on fire. That's Aircraft Remover, other uses. And I will honestly tell you that Aircraft Remover, other uses 2 is already edited. It's ready to go. My little sister actually helped me with that. She gave me actually, she stole my idea and then I stole it back. It's one of those deals. So if you ever see And this is if you ever, and I know Think Different is here. He doesn't like to hear about the finale of the regular aircraft remover. But if you all ever see this one, that means we're at the end of the series. If you guys see that one, there is one more right after that, but this is aircraft remover, other uses. I told you. I told you. But do you guys want to see a sneak peek into series two? This is the sneak peek into series two. So when you all see that one, that's that I love it. I told you the series is going to basically Think Different. You're getting, if you will, you're getting basically when I said you're getting, I guess you could say season two. You get season two now. So don't worry, don't worry. So that's season two. That's the beginning of season two, if you will. Gamerin, thank you, man. I appreciate you popping in and at least saying hi. Real quick, before you run off, before you go anywhere, let me say right now, okay? I watched that video. Man, you have got to tell your story. I mean, I'm good, but the way you tell your story is absolutely amazing. You've got to tell your story. You have got to tell your story because I'm telling you, Queen Mercury, welcome to the live. We got a couple of we got three queens in the live stream. Holy cow, we got all sorts of royalty with us today. So, uh, brother gamer, you got to tell that. I'm telling you, you got to tell your story, man. I'm begging you. You got to tell the story. And for the record, for all of you who don't know, I'm loving how our boy Ian is, I'm loving how he's using the gaming and romance thing. That is an amazing angle. But now you're going to have to show us what you could do in romance now. You got to show us. I'm challenging you. You got to show us now. Telling you because I'm telling you this. I see all sorts of talent that I'm telling you. I see all sorts of talent waiting to happen right there. Just amazing. There you go. You guys, you know what? I'm telling you right now, that intro, that was actually one, the whole thing with the hot rodding and romance do coexist thing. Do you know that was actually one of my customers at McDonald's that kind of gave me that idea? Not a joke. I was sitting there telling them about how I do custom cars and romance. And she's like, those two don't go together. I'm like, yes, they do. And it dawned on me. A lot of people don't think that. So I'm like, wait a minute. I can market this. My Generation X mind was right there. Oh, I got you. So I'm like, my Generation X mind was like wrapped around that, like, yes, something I can market. And that's how it all started. And it literally started off where the intro goes, hello once again, and welcome to the Prince Magnum channel where hot rodding and romance do coexist. I'm your host, Prince Magnum. Welcome to another episode of, and whatever the topic was that day. And that's how it all started. That's literally how it all started, was doing that. So it was literally a customer at McDonald's. And I've been a maintenance man a long time. I just had to run up there. They're like, "Hey, Prince Magnum," you know. So real quick, Queen Mercury, you're here. Mm, hang on a second. You got to meet the real. I'm the host, but you got to meet the star. You haven't met the star of the Prince Magnum channel. I know you've seen her in video and everything, but you got to meet the star, right? You got to meet the star of the channel. I'm not the star, I'm the host. So let's go down and meet the real star. I know that's who you really want to see. The star of the Prince Magnum channel. Time you met Project Spirit. And this is the car I take Princess Faye out on dates in. I take her out on dates. I drive it to work every day, all that stuff. So you get to see her, okay? Everybody loves this car. There you go. Project Spirit. My 1975 Ford Maverick. That's my baby. That's my baby that my baby bought me. What do you think? Should have seen it. Gamerin. I love you, brother. Well, most people don't realize back in the day, there was no need for a passenger mirror. You don't need to see on that side of the road. You're going straight ahead. Just drop that hammer and keep on a rolling. Actually, it's just not. Hey, it didn't come with one. It didn't need one back then. That was the way they did it. So that's Project Spirit. I still drive the car every day. Every day. That's my baby. I love that car. Love that car. She's an amazing ride. And I will tell you all right now that you know if I've relapsed because I stopped working on them. I stopped working on them. Or if I am working on them, it becomes belligerent how I work on them. What do I mean by that? Um, it's more focused on going fast and making that car like a tank. That's my alcoholic behavior. All right, this is sober talk, so let's get on with it. All right, I've been dying to to do this one, tell my story, that thing. And my story, for the record, right now, I'm going to get this out of the way. My story of sobriety is, um, it's not unique by any stretch of the imagination. If anything, it is far from unique. My story is pretty much the same as every member of Alcoholics Anonymous. The only difference is the details change, but my story is pretty much the same. We drank, we did stupid stuff, and there you have it. That sort of behavior. That being said, times have changed. I've changed, but I'm going to take you all back to when before I got sober. I'm going to tell some of that story. I don't tell that story a lot because a lot of times in AA meetings, and I purposely, again, because I love to act on camera, I purposely acted out how angry I was and everything yesterday. And honestly, I was kind of setting up for today because I knew this is what I was going to be doing today. So I was really excited about that. And I wanted to act out. When that troll was in here, I really wasn't that upset. I really don't give a flying. Anyhow, there's ladies in the chat. I shouldn't be cussing. But let me tell you all, when open ears and mind, there you go. You guys will start catching on every once in a while. I'll give you a sneak peek into kind of what might be coming in Sober Talk throughout some of the other lives previous to what I might be talking about that day. I've been doing that a little bit more, and I've been seeing if anybody notices. But yesterday it was pretty blatant. I was having fun. Sometimes you just gotta act. You know, you just gotta. I love that stuff. I don't get enough time to do that. I don't get enough time to get on camera and be an actor. You would think that I would, but having a YouTube channel, you'd think I would, but it just doesn't always happen that way. A lot of times I'm sitting there over there next to a freaking computer, and that's pretty much it. That's my life. You know, when I'm not at work. So I'm going to top off the coffee cup. We're going to get this underway. All right. So if at any point that some of y'all might have a comment or something that you're not 100% sure about what I might be talking about, feel free to ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them. So there we have it. My coffee cup is topped off. I'm in, oh shoot, Galaxy is telling me that her water bowl is empty. So I better take care of that real quick. What's going on, Gavin John? There's my IT man. Let me tell y'all, I was talking with Gavin John earlier. I was talking with him earlier, and when he told me how old he is, and I seen his picture on I'm like, there's no freaking way you were that old. No, you're way too young looking. My goodness, he's a young looking guy, and I mean, I didn't think he was, the age I thought he was like 18 looking at his picture. You, Gavin John, you looking young. Imagine the honeys like that, and cute young ladies, what the, anyhow, don't, handsome young man, I imagine he's got the gals beating on his door. There we go. All right, let's do this. All right, now if you're not familiar again with Sober Talk, because we just got chatting and I just, you know, chasing rabbits, chasing rabbits. Here we go again, Prince Magnum. You're chasing rabbits again. Um, Let me go ahead and kind of, one of the things that I like to do is I like to do a prayer. And normally I do this sort of stuff off camera. But I decided that probably about a month ago, I was going to start doing it more on camera, kind of share that prayer that a lot of times I might do in a live stream. Before a live stream, I might go to the AA Big Book, which is what I do, and I'll read. I'll do one of the prayers out of the Big Book, and today that's exactly what I'm going to do. Again, So let me crack open to one of the most important prayers in my sobriety, because that's what we're talking about is sobriety. So we're going to go over here to how it works. It works just fine if you work the program, right? All righty. On page 63, for anyone following along, if they have a big book handy. God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, thy way of life. May I do thy will always. One of my favorite prayers. All righty, so we are now set. Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome. All right, like all good stories, make sure that, like all good stories, we should start at the beginning. And at the beginning, if you will, as far back as I can remember, I will be the first to say that I felt like I was always different. Like, even around my own family, I felt different, like I didn't exactly belong. I guess you could say that I always felt, right? Oh, that's a lot, isn't it? Right? It's a lot. Um, I always felt like I was even like the square peg trying to be fit into a round hole. I was really kind of different in that regard. So I was always felt kind of unusual from my family. My family is a family of drinkers, and the nobody really stood out as a blatant alcoholic, but I know if you shake my family tree hard enough, you'll get hit in the head with an empty keg. So there might be something to that whole genetic thing. I know they say that I don't know. I've not seen the research enough to say, okay, yeah, I'll buy that. So I don't know. But I've seen some of us in Alcoholics Anonymous that have any alcoholics in our family, and then here you are, that sort of thing. So we don't know. And we're not going to try, I'm not going to speculate on that, but I just know that I always felt different. And in essence, I didn't know what was wrong with me. So it's safe to say that I was always an alcoholic, whether I knew it or not. Even before my first drink, I was always an alcoholic. So now that I have said that, now that I have come out and said that, my first drunk was at the age of 14. Now, some of you might remember there was a time when a couple would have, when they would have a baby, when a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, would have a baby, the hospital would sometimes send like a care basket home with them. And it was like it had these expensive wines and cheese, right? I'm right there with you, right there with you, think different. They would send them home with this care basket full of wines and expensive cheeses, really nice stuff. Even like summer sausages and things like that. And it was like in a picnic basket, and it would come with a bottle of Chardonnay or champagne. Oh, freshman year? This was just before I started my freshman year. Um, and you know, my mom and her live-in boyfriend. This was after my little brother, my youngest brother, my youngest half brother from my mom was born, and a bottle of champagne. No, the bottle of Chardonnay sat in the fridge for like 6 months, had never been opened. And mom and her live-in boyfriend Clay got the idea that it was either drink the contents of the bottle or throw it out. Well, someone got the wise idea. Well, if we're going to drink this, why don't we let the kids have just a little bit? A little bit's not going to hurt them. And they got us all these little glasses and poured us in. Well, about the height of my coffee cup, and it's probably to right about there. That's not a whole lot, really. I mean, that's not a whole lot. So that was what they did. Now, bear in mind, I can't. Yeah. Ooh, ooh, that's some harsh stuff. Yeah. So they poured us this, and I come from a broken home. My family puts the fun in dysfunctional. Okay, I'm not joking there. So that being said, um, and already I feel like I'm born an alcoholic. Like like anybody knows, what you're gonna be like. I we were told that you can have this, but sip it. Okay, don't guzzle it. We don't want your kids getting sick. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. So I started sipping mine, and something happened. I don't know how to fully describe it, but something clicked. As I got a couple of sips in, well, I took the first sip and immediately, and a lot of people, a lot of alcoholics are familiar with this, but it's one of those things that they're familiar with it, but it's one of those things that they don't think about it until someone talks about it. I took that first sip, and the first thing that happened was my mouth got dry. It immediately got dry. And I what is natural when your mouth gets dry, you take another drink, right? Well, that's exactly what I did. I took another drink. And before I knew it, my glass was almost gone. And something was happening to me. I felt different. I felt relaxed. I felt comfortable in my own skin for the first time in my life. What's going on, Third Gen 83? Welcome to the live stream. I'm actually telling my story of sobriety, but we're starting off in the dark ages, if you will, before I got sober. I'm actually talking about my first drunk right now, so you're just in time. I'm actually describing what it was like because every alcoholic in recovery, exactly. You take that first drink, your mouth gets dry, and immediately it's like, what do? You grab your glass and you take another drink. So, but as I was going through that first glass, as I was going through that first glass, I started feeling different. Like I said, I started feeling comfortable in my own skin. For the first time in my life, 14 years old, I felt comfortable. I felt relaxed. I felt like I can do anything at that point. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't even quite tipsy, but I felt normal. I felt like everybody else. I felt like I was a part of again. Weird how that happens. And I'm like, man, I got to have more of this stuff. I wanted more. Well, my little brothers and my, who was going to be my stepbrothers, they didn't want theirs. They didn't like it. Well, I'll just take good care of that for you. I know how to fix that. Go, go, go. Got to the point where I was even sneaking a little bit from the fridge. You'd see me top it off a little bit. I only had that one glass. See how that works? Alcoholic logic, my friends. Alcoholic logic. Before I knew it, I wasn't necessarily falling down drunk. Um, no, it really didn't taste that good. I really did. I mean, later on in life, I kind of developed a flavor for like Chardonnays and wines, but that came a whole lot later. What's going on, Blacklight? Yeah, they didn't like the taste. They didn't like the taste. Um, they didn't like the taste of it. They didn't like the bubbles in that particular Chardonnay. Chardonnays and champagnes have a lot in common, but they're made a little bit different. And in this particular case, they didn't like the bubbles. They didn't like the way it tickled their noses. I didn't notice really. I just all I noticed was I was feeling good. And because I lived in a broken home where abuse was a commonplace thing, physical and mental abuse, now I've got enough of this magic leopard sweat in me to think that I'm, larger than life. And what happens? I walk right into the living room, point at my mom's live-in boyfriend, Clay, and I said, you're sitting on your ass as usual, you lazy motherfucker. And everyone kind of looks at me. And I said, talk about it. I said, you can't even keep a job. And yeah, liquid courage. Hey, what's going on, Sean? Welcome to the live stream, my buddy. So then you know what's going on. I'm telling the story of my sobriety. And so basically, I had enough liquid courage in me, and I started trying to pick a fight. I was like, why don't you get off your ass, you lazy son of a bitch? Let's throw down. I said, I'm sick of it. At 14, calling him out. Yeah. For the record, I'd already been in fistfights with this guy. And this guy was like 220 pounds, 6'2", and I was at best 5'2" and barely weighed 100 pounds. And I'd already been in fistfights with this guy, protecting my little brothers. I was actually protecting my little brothers a lot of the time from this guy beating up on them. And I took a lot of beatings for him. As a matter of fact, I've got a half brother named Justin, and him and I were talking about it one day. And I told him how at 6 months old, how her live-in boyfriend Clay was bounced him off the couch when he was 6 months old. And I took a beating for him. I was telling him about that, and he said, I never heard that story. I said, yeah, I took a beating for you. He said, you saved my life at 6 months old. And I said, Yeah, I don't know, I guess. And he's, what's going on, Captain Myers? How you doing, Mary? Welcome to the live stream. Telling my story of sobriety. I appreciate y'all being here. But yeah, I stood up for him. I took a beating for that from my little brother at age 11. I took a beating for him, and he said, "You may have saved my life." And he said, "Thank you." He said, "I never heard that story. No one had ever told me that." He said, "You literally were right there protecting me." Yeah, well, it was one of those things that, yeah, I mean, so I started off in a rough childhood. But then, when I was introduced to alcohol, then I knew that was it. Now, so, yeah, you know better than that, Kevin. I don't touch any of that stuff. I haven't, for those that do not know, I'm going to go ahead and tell you real quick. My sober date is February 7th, 2006. I am 14 years sober. August the 7th, when I turned 41, the same exact day. No, I did not plan this. The same exact day, I will have 14 and a half years without a drink or a drug of any kind. Nothing, nothing. The only thing that I do today that I do need to quit, but I'm not quite ready, is I still smoke cigarettes. That's it. That is as close to drugs. Oh, and I drink coffee like it's going out of style. But yeah, not a drop. Not a drop. We'll get to all of that here in a little bit. Got some good. Well, thank you so much. But right now, I'm actually telling what it was like before basically that was my first drunk, and when I literally called this man out, he's looking at my mom like scared out of his mind because like, oh my God, yeah, it is hard. It is hard. So he's looking at my mom like, oh my God, he's ready to throw down. He's gonna do me serious harm. And my mom's like, wait a minute. How much have you had to drink? No, enough to tell you what the fuck for. And she's like, all right, that's all I needed to hear. So I was put to bed at 6 o'clock, and I'm a night owl person usually until I got working maintenance at McDonald's, and now I go in at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm clocking in at 4 o'clock in the morning. Um, so literally, I was put it to bed to sleep it off that night. And that was my first drunk at the age of 14. Now, I'd like to tell y'all I was hip, slick, and cool. Okay? I'd like to tell y'all I was hip, slick, and right, right. I'd like to tell y'all I was hip, slick, and cool, and kind of feed you a line. I did not touch another drop until I was 18. It was I was already a year graduated from high school, and I took my high school sweetheart, my first love. I took her to her prom. Now, this is a funny story. Okay, my high school sweetheart ended up later on having two beautiful daughters, and my oldest one is now 18. So that should give you an idea how old I am. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Um, I took her to her high school prom. It was her senior year. I'd already been graduated a year. For the record, I took her to her prom in a 19. Thank you, Blacklight. Let me tell you all, I took my high school sweetheart, my first love, to her prom, her senior prom, in a '78 Camaro. Not a joke. Okay. Have one for me while you're at it, Kevin. Have one for me. We'll get to all that stuff later on. It's okay. You have one for me because if you can enjoy a drink and not end up like me, basically, if you can enjoy your drink, have one for me. Oh no. Oh man, that sucks. Oh shoot. Shoot, man. That sucks. 86 Diplomat too. Oh no. Okay, I'll have a cigarette for you. There you go. Now, for the record, I do not smoke in my live streams. I don't smoke on camera anymore. I do have one video. You don't drink? Probably better you don't. You don't have to find out whether or not you're like me. But anyhow, I didn't have a drink until literally my next drunk was in 1998. I could still tell you when. And I took my high school sweetheart to her prom. I didn't go to my senior prom. I didn't like any of the people I went to school with. I didn't like them at all. But I took her. That's all good, Kevin. It's all good, man. It's all good. Like I said, uh, have one for me. Celebrate that you're not in the same boat. Okay, we all celebrate life, and if you can celebrate it with a drink in your hand, fine. I'll celebrate life with a cup of coffee. Mm, coffee's good. Made that pot earlier. Ooh, well, there you go. But what happened was, is I took her to her prom, and basically where I live, the high school prom is you go there, you get pictures. Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, I'll have to tell you. Sometime I'll have to tell you a secret menu item coffee drink. I'll tell you a secret menu item coffee drink later on. Kevin, you remind me. I'll tell you a secret menu item that you're gonna love. It's not on the menu. Okay, it's not on the menu. You would love it though. All right. So back in 1998, a lot of us scavenged together $100. Not a joke. We scavenged together about $100, and which $100 bought an awful lot of bought an awful lot of alcohol. And they even had a few of our friends that were above these. They're like, here, have some, have some. It was a different time where I live, because what you did at our prom was you went there, you got some pictures, you might do one or two dances, but then you left and you went and drank. Well, guess who got stuck being the fucking D&D? I wasn't allowed to drink that night. I did have one sip of wine. That was it. And it wasn't that good. It was nasty. I mean, that was some nasty stuff. I know what wine's supposed to. That was nasty. I graduated in 1997, so I lived through the 90s. It's Missouri. Weather is crazy here. Crazy, man. But anyhow, so we all went out, we had a good time, and everyone got good and lit. All right, you'll have to tell me about that. You'll have to tell me about that. But anyhow, so we go and but I didn't really drink that night. I had one or two sips of some really nasty wine. That was about it. The next night, we had a lot of alcohol left over. And I would come home from work, and I'd get home about 5 o'clock, and I would start drinking. And I would not stop drinking until I it was so lit that I couldn't even walk. And I stayed that way for about a week. And at the end of the week, I'm pouring alcohol down the drain, which felt weird, and saying, I better stop or I'm liable to turn into an alcoholic. That was literally what I said, you know, and little did I know I'd already started down that road. This was also about the time that I said that I started hanging around with some unsavory types. Now, again, this is the late 90s, and it was a different time. And when I say it was a different time, you hear about every once in a while today drug deals going bad, and then in the drug deals you hear about heroin. What's going on, sis? That's all right, Sean. I know you're here, brother. I know you're here. Uh, so what when it, like I said, I started hanging around with some unsavory types, and back then, you know, it was a little bit different in the drug scene. I didn't get necessarily into drugs, but I hung around the scene enough. Okay. And that being said, hanging around that scene, hanging around that scene, think of today where a drug deal might go bad. You would hear about heroin, or you might hear about cocaine or something like that. You would hear about, if you hear a drug deal today like that going bad, that's what you would think of. Well, back in the late 90s, marijuana was that drug. Everybody was getting into it again, just like they would have in the 60s and 70s. And that being said, I was the guy that you called when you didn't want your deal to go bad. I was that guy that you would call when you had to go collect the money and you wanted to make sis. I was the guy, when you wanted to go collect the money that someone owed you on marijuana, I was the guy you called to make sure that that person paid up. I never had a deal go bad. I was that guy. And then they would give me a cut of the money and I would buy alcohol. And that was me from the time I was 21 till the time I was 22. Yeah. So yeah, that was that, right. So that was kind of the thing back then. If basically if your dealer fronted you and you didn't pay up, he would go over to collect, but you knew I was nearby. And if you didn't pay, you might not be the same afterwards, okay? Um, or if they went, basically I was called to do protection, and I did that numerous times. And they would pay me in money, or they would pay me in something that they would trade me something that I wanted. Say I actually had a hell of a CD collection from doing that. They would give me CDs and everything else, and or fill up the tank in my car or whatever. So it was like that. Um, and because it was a different time, that was how it was. So I was already in that world. And that was the time and I was even working nursing and everything, but on my time off, it was not uncommon to see me doing deals like that. Um, so that was what I did to make extra money on the side from nursing. And little did anybody know that I was doing some dirty stuff on the side. I wanted nothing to do with the drugs, but yeah, that was what I did. And the money I would get from that, because at 21, basically at the age of 21, I'm old enough to drink. Why don't I? And it started off where I would buy a fifth of Crown Royal. I'd buy a fifth of Crown Royal, and I would go home and I'd decide I was going to have a couple of drinks. Well, a couple of drinks turned into the whole frickin' bottle. You know, that was how it went, and I would just that whole bottle gone one night. Um, yeah, that was me at 21. Yeah, little did you all know. I mean, I was already a dark son of a bitch then. And that's how it was. That was so when I turned 21, my 21st birthday was hilarious. I went over to this My sis will know exactly where I'm talking about. I went over to Butch's convenience store and bought my alcohol there. My little sister knows exactly where I'm talking about, down in Ironton. And I bought all of my alcohol there. I don't think I ever did the naked in the middle of the road. You know, that was where I went and bought my alcohol. I went in there and I bought a bottle of tequila rose, and then I bought a pint of Crown. No, it was a fifth Crown Royal, and I think it was a pint of tequila. And I went home. Yeah, it wasn't that expensive back then. I maybe what I just taught is said. I spent $30 back then. That was $30 for a fifth of Crown, a fifth, a fifth of tequila rose, and a pint of some cheap ass tequila. That was it. I did that too. I did that too, sis. So I went over there, and they're like, you could go to a bar, and they'll buy you, your first drink for free. I said I could do that, but I plan on probably. I said I'd really like to just go home and sit down with my alcohol and read a book. That's exactly what I did. So went home, sat down, poured myself popped the top on the tequila rose, started drinking, and started. Exactly. So I started drinking, and I started, I'm sitting there drinking my tequila rose, and I'm reading a book, and at a certain point, I'm already through the tequila rose. I'm already through my Crown Royal. This is my 21st birthday, and I'm through the Crown Royal, through my Crown Royal, and I'm like, man, I know I'm about to run out. Maybe I should go get some more. And I'm looking at the time, and I'm like, man, I should go get some more. I couldn't find my keys. Couldn't find my keys. All right, Kevin. So I'm like I said, I'm good and lit. I can't even stand up straight, and I'm sitting there thinking I'm going to go drive down and buy some more. This is screwed up, man. You know, I couldn't find my keys. So well, it's probably better I don't. If I can't find my keys, it's probably the universe's way of saying that. Right, you're right, right. Probably a good idea. Just go ahead and lie down. And I tried to stand up. I couldn't even stand up. I could barely crawl, so I had to crawl to the couch, which was maybe 5 feet away. That was as far as I could get. I crawled into the couch, lied down, and passed out. Next morning, I looked over where my book was sitting, and my keys were sitting right next to me the whole time. I couldn't even find my keys that were sitting next to me. Fell out of my pocket, couldn't find them. So that should tell you, I was that drunk. But then I started hanging around the people doing all the drugs, and that was how I bought my alcohol. Right? Thank you. Here on the Prince Magnum channel. It's all about the money. Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about there. Think different. So what ends up happening is I'm, I'm that started it. So I'm sitting there like I'm 21 years old. I'm old enough to drink. You know, what the hell? So every Friday night I would go. Usually, good point, sis. Good point. Well, I go and every Friday night because the job that I had at that time, I worked at this one nursing home where every Friday night I was off. So I would go over, hang out with my high school sweetheart, and I'd go, after I was done hanging out, I would go home and I would sit down and I'd break open a book and I'd start drinking. Well, that's how it all started. And then again, I started hanging out with the right people, and before you knew it, um I had drinking buddies. and I would every other day, it seemed like every day I was off, I was over hanging out with them after I was done over at my my high school sweetheart's place. It was good. You got to know your alcohol. Okay, just got to know your alcohol. And again, for the record, um, I mean, this was my life. I would drink every Friday. Well, I started hanging out with this one dude, and oh yeah, yeah, you got to know your alcohol. I started hanging out with this one dude, and before you knew it, I mean, we were getting into all sorts of trouble. Um, just I would drink and wake up in crazy places. And at that time, I had a 77 Oldsmobile Delta 88. I did that too a couple of times. And then I really woke up in some strange places. Oh my God. I had a 77 Oldsmobile Delta 88. And if you all don't know what a Delta 88 looks like from the 70s, these things were big. These things were so big. Yeah, alcohol is a drug. Yeah. Um, this thing was so big it lacked a sail. I mean, it was a huge freaking car. Thank you for that 11th like. So I remember being over at my drinking buddies one day, and I mean, I would pass out on this car. Yeah, basically, yeah, exactly. Think different. Exactly. Well, I would pass out on this car in some strange places. Thank you for that 12th like. Uh, I don't care. I would pass out in some strange places on this car. I would pass out and be sprawled out on the hood, or I'd pass out and be sprawled out on the trunk lid. There was one time I remember passing out and being sprawled across the roof of this car. And I had no idea how I got there. I didn't know how I got up there without breaking any windows or what. But the funniest one I ever seen was the time that I passed out, and when I came to, I was staring up at the transmission pan of this car. And I was like, I got a leak right. What the fuck? That was literally my response. I had no idea. My face was staring at the transmission pan, and my feet were down by the rear end of the car. I had no idea how I got there. And it sat up high enough, and with my skinniness, I could slide out from underneath the car real easy. So I'm sitting there, I'm staring at the transmission pan, my feet are down by the rear end, and I had no idea how I got there. Not a clue. Right, right. I have no idea how I got there. Couldn't tell you at all. I just know I was there. So that should be an indicator. Well, at around this time, we're talking, I'm 22. In there, my high school sweetheart, she's been going to college and everything. She gets pregnant with our first child. Yeah, you probably could. Beer I've never tried. I'll tell you right now, I was not a beer drinker. I hate beer. I would always get sick on beer before I got drunk. I would get that. Let me tell you a story. Um, my sister will know exactly what I'm talking about. That gas station out on 21, near the scrapyard that used to be Barney's Bait Shop. You know the one I'm talking about. I know. Oh, I'd start throwing up before I got drunk on that stuff. But the gas, yeah. So you know the one I'm talking about, right? So, I would go in there It got to the point where I would go in there every day after work. I would go in there every day after work, and I worked at Bellevue Valley Nursing Home at that time. Yeah. Oh, that's been long gone for a long time, years ago. And I would go into this gas station that's across the street from where Barney's Bait Shop used to be. And this was every night after work. I would go in there, and I would basically get my alcohol for that night. And I would go home. Yeah, 21. It used to be called something else. I think it's still owned by the same person, but yeah, 21 Express. I couldn't remember the name of it, but I would go in there, and there was one. It was like Friday night, and I went in there, and there was this guy behind me had something like a he had a case of beer and I looked down and I seen him with a really wow. I looked down at that, the case of beer that guy was carrying, and I looked at him and I said, "Gonna tie one on this weekend." He said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get good and drunk this weekend." And all right, I walk up to the counter because I was next in line, and I said, "I'll go ahead and take a fifth of Crown Royal." I said, "I'll go ahead and take a fifth. I'll go ahead and take that pint of your tequila rose, just out of curiosity. If you tried that stuff right there, never mind. Just go ahead and put that up on the counter." And I said, "And I think that'll do it for today." And she says, "All right." And she rung me, started ringing me up. Oh, Bud Light drinker. Okay. So she starts ringing me up, and I turn around and look right at that guy, and I said, "Lightweight," and turned around, and she's bagging me up, and I said, "I'll see you tomorrow." And she said, "All right, I'll see you tomorrow." And as I'm walking out the door, the guy's like, "Holy shit." She's like, "He'll be in here tomorrow and get pretty much just everything you see." And he's like, "Oh my," you could hear him like, "Oh my God." Like, so I guess you could say if there was ever right. Oh, I remember that. So then I walk out the door and, get in the car, and I go home, and I was there the next night getting the same stuff pretty much, you know, and that's how I drank. I drank like that every night. Um, so, and so back to what I was talking about. Here I am, I'm, 20, 21, getting ready to go on 22, and I find out that I'm going to be a father. I'd like to tell y'all I got sober right that second. I didn't. Um, I'm going to be 22 when this child is born. Um, I didn't get sober that second. As a matter of fact, I can tell you the night that my oldest daughter was conceived, I was drunk and she was drunk. The joke that I used to have with that ex was I would always tease her and say, I would always tease and say, my first child, I was drunk. She took advantage of me, and so that really isn't the case. But yeah, I would always tease and say she took advantage of me because I was drunk. Turned to the table. She's like, "You bullshit." She's like, "Yeah, you were drunk, but so was I." And so the next, so that's how it all went down. And during this time, I mean, I went off the deep end because she didn't want to do, my ex didn't want to do what I wanted to do, and so I ended up going off deep end, and we actually ended up splitting up during her pregnancy. And I got with another gal. Now, to tell you, I'm really good. I'm a really good judge of character with people. But when I'm in the bottom of a bottle, my judgment of people goes out the window. I had got with a gal. She was real pretty. Um, but the problem was is she was really kind of screwy in the head. Um, I met her at work of all the places. And she was real, she seemed real nice. But what ended up happening is oh my goodness. One of the things that ended up, well, this gal and I did not last. Oh no, no, no. You guys are gonna laugh about this. Um, this particular gal, we didn't last long. Her and I split up during this. And I was really kind of upset that, we split up and everything until a couple of days later when this gal that I was seeing comes up and kind of says, "You don't need to be upset." Okay. And she filled me on why. She told me that the whole time this gal had been cheating on me. That isn't the problem that I had. Okay. These things happen all the time. It was who she was doing the cheating with. She was cheating. She was basically screwing her own brother. Not a half brother, not a step brother, not my brother. Her own brother. I'll let that sink in and just wait for the comment section to catch up. Are y'all still in line bread? I'm waiting for the comment section to get caught up on that. There it is. There it is. What the fuck? That's some straight up Jerry Springer shit right there, isn't it? Yeah. Mm. There it is. Everyone's still kind of. I'm waiting at everyone. The WTFs are really hitting the chat right now. Yeah, uh, I'm telling you. Her brother did not like me for some reason. I guess because I was stealing his action. I didn't know it. I was very drunk at that time. So I well, I'm still kind of baffled by that one. So long story short, my drinking did continue to get worse. And it got to the point where, my first daughter was born, Alexis was born. I didn't know what to do. Oh, sis. That's probably true. Yeah. And again, I'd like to tell y'all I was, trying to do right, but I couldn't. Um, so it took a friend of mine to try to talk me into staying sober. And I tried. Here I was 23 years old now. And I, I just couldn't stop. Okay. And it took a friend of mine. And now at this point in time, I'm 23 years old. What are they talking? I don't know. I don't know. I doubt she even remembers me. So long story short, in that, my ex and I tried to start piecing things back together. We weren't sure where to go, but at a certain point, in between, kind of sleeping around with other gals and things like that, we started kind of putting things back together. And, I admit I was sleeping around. So whenever you all hear me say that, um, my poor sister, um, you know, um, basically, at a certain point, I am 23, and now I'm expecting another child, my daughter Amber, and I basically get pulled aside by this one nurse at the nursing home I was working in, and said, have you ever considered maybe it's time to put the bottle down? stop this stop doing this to yourself, more or less. And I went home and I was like, fuck you, I'll do what I want. And I started drinking. I got almost to the end of the bottle and I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep doing this. She's right. So I tried to quit. And um, I'm going to tell you all, I stayed quit for a year and a half, even through the birth of that child. Um, but there was something happening within me. The happy-go-lucky person, right? Too headstrong. Yeah, that's just typical of our family, sis. I um I struggled with my post-traumatic stress disorder from all the child abuse and everything. I was diagnosed at the age of 16. And I here I am now, raw emotions, no alcohol to stop it. And I mean, I was violent before in the bottom of a bottle, but now I had nothing to kind of numb that, so it got worse. And I kept having flashbacks really bad. I remember at one point thinking that somebody was going to break into my apartment and hurt my two daughters, and I was that were in bed taking a nap, and for an hour I laid on the floor with a with a 1935 Turkish Mauser pointed at the front door because I was having a flashback like that. I thought someone was going to come in and hurt my daughters, and I wasn't going to let them do that. I was in that kind of a flashback. Um, so if that's what I was like. I lived that way. Um, I would, and I was so full of anger and hatred because why would this world let anybody treat me like that? And I was having these horrible flashbacks and living in that world. Nobody understood me. I was very alone. Very, very alone. Welcome back, Kevin. So I was living like this. And I remember getting into it with my ex. She's, I forgot what it was about. And I remember getting into it with her, and I ended up at work. And the next thing you know, I'm getting ready to go give an insulin shot. And I remember standing there at my med cart to go give an insulin shot. And I've got the little alcohol swab that I need to rip open and wipe down the top of the insulin bottle. And for a brief moment, it was like I blacked out. The next thing I knew, that alcohol swab was in my mouth. And I could taste the alcohol, and I could taste that sweet relief again. And that's how it started all over again. I was sneaking, rubbing alcohol, any alcohol I could get my hands on. I was drinking it. And for the record, isopropyl alcohol is very toxic. It's very hard on your liver. So that's how I was getting through. I would sit there and just shake. I was getting the shakes so bad if I didn't do this. And every couple of days I would have to just get something to get through. Because I was falling apart on the inside because of my PTSD and everything. I did not know how to live. And I was becoming more and more violent as time went on. And, that whole thing yesterday where I was, acting out. Yeah, I seen you did, Mr. Cartoon. But anyhow, we're welcome to the live. And real quick, you're actually in time. I'm actually talking a little bit about what you got to see a little bit yesterday. That was actually part of a setup for today. So I was actually struggling with my alcoholism to that point where I was shaking a lot and I was becoming more and more violent. Yes, yes, I did. I'm telling what it was like, for me to get sober and everything. I remember towards the tail end, because there was like this 3 year time frame. What it basically was, I was I stayed sober on my own for about a year and a half, and then I lied about staying sober for another year and a half. So I had everyone believing I was 3 years without a drink. And my hand, like I said, I shook a lot. Um, and I was very, very violent. To give you an idea how violent could be, um, I remember, well, I had a director of nursing in this one nursing home that did not like me. And she was looking for an excuse to just fire me. She just didn't like me. And she pulled me into her office and started yelling at me. Ooh, that does sound good. Ooh, that sounds good. I'm gonna have to try that now. And that does sound good, Kevin. I'll have to try that. Yeah, she pulled me into the office, started yelling at me and threatening my job. This was a regular thing, and finally I had enough of it. I'm sitting there, I'm listening, I got my arms crossed like this. And finally she gets to the end of it. And she's like, "So what do you think of that?" What do I think of that? Okay, let me explain something to you. Oh no, what I said next was better. It was this is the kind of person I was, and I was as good as I say I am, and I still am. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try that, Kevin. Thank you for that recipe. What I looked at her and I said this just like I'm gonna do right now. I said, okay. I said, I get it. You have life and death over my job in this nursing home. That's fine. I get that. But outside of here, you're just like everybody else. You're another moving target. So let me explain it to you like this. You can do whatever you want to me in this building, but the moment you exit, you are another moving target to me. Because there's a lot of people out there who are not dead. The reason why they're not dead is because I haven't killed them yet. So just remember, the one that gets you, you won't hear. No one will hear it until you're already on the ground. I can be that far off and you would never hear the shot. No one would until you crumple. And there's an entire wood line right across the street. Folks, I'm going to say it right now. I would get drunk and sit and read ballistics charts. That's who I was back then. I would sit down and read ballistics charts. I would get drunk my reading material was reading ballistics charts for firearms, muzzle energy, muzzle velocity, things like that. On 8mm Mauser, 357 Magnum, 44 Magnum, just stuff like that. I would sit there and study this stuff for hours. Sword and bow, yeah, I could see that, sis. I think that's a pretty commonplace thing for a lot of people actually. And I was that type of person. I would actually read stories of what it sounded like to put a knife into somebody, stuff like that. I was that type of person because what was going on with my PTSD, outwardly, I wanted everyone to be afraid of me. Because why? I was afraid of. I was very scary. And I mean, I looked at her, I said, "So what do you have to say now?" She kind of sat there a moment. She said, "I think we're done here. You can go ahead and go to your med cart and go to work." Thank you. That was the end of it. About a week later, she quit. That is a good tool. It is a good tool. So that's what I was like back then. And I know a lot of you were sitting there going, wow, that was you? No way. Yes way. Um, I remember going to, yeah. And that's who I was. That's who I was. Now I'm going to tell you all, Thug Life. I was always, I was a different person back then. I was a real different person back then. Um, I'm ashamed to admit what kind of person I was back then, but it is what it is. It's part of who I once was. Once was. So what ends up happening is, that's the type of life I lived. And I remember sitting there one day with that ex, and she's like, "What the hell is going on with you?" And I looked at her and I said, "I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm scared of everything, and I don't know why. I'm angry with everyone and everything, and I don't know why." All right, there you go. All I know is that right now, I want to watch the whole world burn. Everything. I want to watch it all burn. And the sad part of it all is I want another drink. And that should tell you what it was like. I didn't know what was wrong with me, couldn't understand it. And she said, "You need help." I didn't want to get it. As soon as I heard that "you need help," I got really upset. I got really angry. I got violent. I'm not going to lie. And she left. I literally came home one day after working a 16-hour shift. I came home, front door was practically wide open, and that was the end. I mean, I came in and I realized that, my girl of, off and on for 10 years had packed up our two daughters and had left. Family's very important to me. And no, I didn't. Um, I rushed around the apartment. I fell to my knees in the middle of the floor, right in the middle of the kitchen, and said the words, "I can't believe it got this bad. God, how could I have let it get this bad?" And I spent the next 2 days trying to find her and tell her I was sorry. I'll go get help, whatever it takes. We can fix this. But she wanted nothing to do with me. She was done. Um, hmm? Nah. Yes, I did. So all of that being said, there it was the end. And the next 2 days, along with trying to find my now ex and try to make it right and put our family back together, I was drinking heavily, very heavily. Get to the end of the 2 days, and I'm sitting there on my couch with a loaded 357 Magnum, Smith & Wesson, Model 66. Oh, we're getting to the happy part. We're getting to the happy part, Mr. Cartoon. We're almost there. Hang in there. I'm sitting there on the couch, loaded 357 Magnum. I could still tell you all the details. It's a Smith & Wesson Model 66-6 357 Magnum revolver, double action, 4-inch barrel with hug pistol grip, loaded with Magtech Guardian Gold 125 grain jacketed hollow points. Well, this is important because it didn't happen, obviously, but this next part is going to be super important. I was just about to end it all when my phone rings. Guy can't even kill himself without the phone ringing. It was a friend of mine named Tanya. Tanya's going to play an important part in my story. I worked with her in the nursing home. She said, Prince Magnum, what are you doing right now? I said, I'm sitting here on the couch. What are you really doing? Just about remember it. C-E-Z, just about. And I said, I'm sitting here on, yeah. I said, I'm sitting here on the couch. She said, what are you really doing? I'm sitting here on the couch with my, I'm sitting here on the couch with my 357. I was just about to do, to end it. And she proceeded to do what any good non-alcoholic friend would do. She started chewing me out for about a half an hour, and then she talked me into going to get help. I called an outpatient treatment center, which is actually just over in Farmington. It used to be on Federal, it used to be on, I think they call it like Federal Hill or something like that over in Park Hills. It used to be over there, SEMO. I called them and they scheduled an inpatient, an outpatient, intake sort of thing. And I went in and they said, you need Alcoholics Anonymous. I know you would have, sis, but this was actually, you were real little then. You were 3 then. You were only 3 years old then. I used to, but that's a funny story in itself. That's another story for another time. We'll talk about that later. Don't worry, the story gets better. I go into the outpatient treatment center. And one of the first things they told me, they're like, so what are you here for? Well, what judge sent you? I said, judge? I'm not here because some freaking judge. Well, all right. What about drug court? Drug court? Not here because of drug court. Why are you here? I have a problem with alcohol and I can't stop drinking. I need help. No, it wasn't no Judge Judy. And she like, oh. Well, like I said, so far the story gets better. Don't worry, it has a happy ending so far. Well, she's like, you need Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm like, no, I can do this. And she says, give it a try. And I'm like, I could do this. Just give it a try, please. And I said, okay. So matter of fact, hang on a second. I'm going to show you guys something really awesome then. So, I go, she hands me this actual meeting schedule. This is not a joke, what I'm about to show you. You guys are going to love this. My original meeting schedule that I was given for Alcoholics Anonymous in our area. What's going on in the amazing LSB? We're talking about the story of when I got sober. You're just in time. But this is my original where and when. You better not, Mr. Cartoon. But this is it. My original where and when. You can actually see how beat up it is. Wow. And This will tell you how far back this goes. This one here, look, there's the date. It was revised in March of 2005. That's when this was an old Where and When. Okay. Then what happens next is I actually opened this Where and When. Not a joke. And I think, yeah, you can still see where I was calling the churches that the meetings were held at. And I called those churches and actually talked to people there. And I said, do you guys have AA meetings there? They said, oh yeah, they're here, such and such day. And I'm like, really? And they told me about one that was on Friday night that was not here. And it sounded perfect. I was scheduled off that night. Ended up having to go into work anyways. So I'm like, okay, I'll go to that meeting. I go to that meeting. And well, I called a guy who ran that meeting, who is no longer with us. An amazing guy. And I talked to him for probably about an hour. And I kept telling him how scared I was. I didn't know if, that I could be helped. I thought I might be too far gone. And, that sort of thing. And he says, let's give it a try. And he said, one of the most important things he said, with you saying you're afraid, let me say right now, if you told me you weren't afraid, I'd say there was no hope for you. He said, with you telling me that you're afraid, there is hope. You have a chance. So that's where it started. This guy 12th stepped me over the phone. I go to my first meeting, and I remember that night I was actually at work. I was not supposed to be at work, but I was. And my job actually let me off for that entire meeting. I went there to Trinity Lutheran Church over in Park Hills. I get there, and immediately that guy is right there. He's like, come on in, let's have a cup of coffee. And we sit down and we started having that cup of coffee. And, it was amazing. It was amazing. I felt right at home. I felt comfortable around this guy. Well, yeah, we're getting to that part of the story. And, I was like, this is it. I'm starting to feel like someone who understands me. I don't know if I'd have made it then, Mr. Cartoon. I don't think I would have made it. So I'm sitting there, with a cup of coffee in my hand. And, I'm like, I just, I didn't know what to do. Well, people started coming to the meeting. They're like, oh, we got a new guy. I was like, yeah, brand new. First meeting. Oh, you're that new. Okay. You behave yourself, young man. That's my little sister. But anyhow, what happens next is I'm sitting there. Yeah, my little sister's 16. So people started coming in. The first words out of their mouth after they're like, oh, you're brand new guy, fresh, first meeting ever, that fresh. And they started asking questions like, do you have a job? Do you have a car? Right? Do you have a car? It's all good. All these things, because in my mind, going into Alcoholics Anonymous, it didn't even dawn on me that it was possible that, that people could go in there homeless, nothing, no money in their pocket, no job, no car, no nothing. When I got sober, I had money. I had a lot of money. because at one time I was one of the wealthiest med techs in our area because I was good at it was a different economy back then, so I was good at kind of saving my money and things like that. So it was a different time, so I had money. Um, by the way, I still had that Olds Delta I was talking about. Was fixing it up and all sorts of cool stuff. Had a lot of money tied up in that car, lots of money. In today's money, it would be close to about 25,000 tied up in that car. A lot of money. So to give you an idea how much money I had back then. Um, so now that that we have said that, I sat there in that first meeting. I sat in that first meeting, and this guy, as people started coming in, this guy comes in holding, hang on, holding his big book, kind of, in his right arm, real kind of funky like, and he had this horrible limp. You guys behave. He comes in with this, the way he was holding his book. Now, sis, I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. No, you're my little sister. No, no, no. Anyhow, hi, honey. Hi, honey. Okay, so now we're at that point where, let me tell you, every alcoholic in recovery knows the day that they got sober. My sober date is February 7th, 2006. And the way that it goes is when I went to that outpatient treatment center, I didn't think it would be a good idea for the next day for me to show up hungover. Behavior system. But so that was why. Really? Really? Spank you. Anyhow. Uh, right. So what happens is that was my first attempt. That was my first, that was how I got sober. And that was on February 7th. And I had to actually, at that first meeting, they're like, when was your last drink? And I said, well, it was Tuesday. And they're like, okay. So that was the way it worked. But the guy who came in with that the limp and the way he was holding the book, I was like, well, that's kind of interesting. I understand. Just, I don't need your help to get into trouble. So that was how it went. And, I was in the meeting. I barely remember any of the meeting. I remember a special reading that came in at that meeting, and I'll read it for you guys if you want. Um, um, you know, so, that was kind of how it went. Uh, I didn't, that's a pretty common place. You go in pretty foggy headed like that. And for about the first, I would say around 2 months of your sobriety, you're really kind of muddle headed. You won't, it's like you're walking around in a complete daze. What is like a day seems like a week, and what is like a week seems like a month. And it feels like everything. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. So I was walking around in kind of like this daze, and it just, so I was at this meeting and guys, it's okay. It's okay. Everyone be cool. Be cool. So basically what happened, I love you, honey. I miss you. I can't wait till you're home. So what ends up happening is, you know, I met, I was at this meeting and this guy's walking around with a limp. Yeah, that happens. Right. Well, a lot of people right now are wondering what happens next in this story. I think everyone's kind of on the edge of their seat at this point. Basically, what happens next is, you know, right. Um, what basically, I remember the reading and I remember what this guy who came in with the limp, because I'm like, man, he's got it rough. He's got medical, and here I am, I'm in the medical field, and I'm like, he's got some issues here, but he's smiling. How the, how the hell can he be smiling? He's in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. He's got the same problem I do. And I could see he's got physical ailments. How the hell can he be smiling? He sits down and he starts, telling his, he, at some point in the meeting, he starts, starts talking. And he says, you're what? And bear in mind, I'm 26 years old at this time. He said, so you're what, 18, 19 years old in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous? And I started laughing. And he said, all right, 2021. And I'm laughing even harder because at this point he's just throwing darts. And he says, all righty, how old are you? And I said, I'm 26. And he's like, what? Everyone's like, no, you're not no 26. They all thought I was lying, which that's a thing. Alcoholics lie. We'll lie like a rug. And he said, and I'm like, no, really, I'm 26. I turned 26 back on August the 7th. Uh, you know, and like, there's no way, no way. And I'm like, well, fine. And I reached in my pocket and I pulled out my wallet. They're like, oh, you don't have to do all that. I said, no, it's all good. Oh, it's okay, it's okay. Well, there was a gal sitting next to me, and she's right, my sis in the banter. And she says, she says, well, I'm curious. She opens, looks at my driver's like, he really is 26. I'm like, wow, dang, you look young. Because they all thought I was a teenager. And so I got carded my first AA meeting. That's not really a thing. It doesn't matter what age. I actually met someone that got sober at 14 years old. I actually met someone that got sober. And when I met her, she got sober at 14. And when I met her, she was 54. Amazing story. Amazing gal. I mean, I was impressed. It blew me away. Well, that was my first meeting. I go back to work, and Tanya was there. And she said, how do you feel? And I said, I think I found where I need to be. As a matter of fact, I found where I needed to be so much. I I found where I needed to be so much that I asked that man who was holding the book kind of funny and walked with a limp, because the way he talked in that meeting, he was so powerful and so moving that I wanted to know how in the hell he could be so chipper and cheerful, that and be sober and all of these things. I wanted to know how the hell. So I asked him to sponsor me. Gavin, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for being here, man. Appreciate you. I'll holler at you soon. Holler at you soon. So there it was. I was, that was my first meeting. I went back to work, and Tanya's like, how do you feel? And I said, I think I'm home. I think I'm home. I said, I feel good. She said, Prince Magnum, this is the first time in a while I've seen you really smile. And she said, I will say this right now. I don't think I've ever seen you smile like this. A real smile. Like You're going to be okay. It was that real, you know. I still remember the spot in that church. There's even been times I've been in meetings and said, right here is where I asked Sober Man to sponsor me. Thank you, sis. You know, so that's how it all started. And a couple days later, after talking with Sober Man a little bit, he at first didn't think I was for real, real. So the way he kind of talked for me at that time was, the way he did. It was that whole thing that he didn't think I was for realsies, and he jelly. Anyhow, so here I was, and so Tuesday rolls around, and I go to the noon topic group. Same questions as the last meeting. Do you have a job? Do you got a car? Blah 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 blah. I'm like, I'm gonna be at work later. Okay, I'm just trying to get through, right now. That's what's up, Kevin. Thank you for that 15th like. Thank you so much. And so that's how it was, Uh, you know, it was a strange world. And, you know, Sober Man was trying to talk me through it. Tanya was my biggest supporter because all my friends gave up on me. Everyone gave up on me. They figured that I was going to stay sober for a little while, but I was going to go back to drinking. And I was truly done. I didn't want to go back. I wasn't going to go back to that world again. So Sober Man started trying to talk me, he was trying to, he didn't know I was as real as I was. So I go to the Tuesday noon topic group meeting. At the meeting, great meeting, great meeting. And I again felt like I was at home. And Sober Man had a little bit of an accident with his car, so it was in the shop getting worked on. And what ends up happening next is I said, well, you're my sponsor. Let me, let me take you home. Let me give you a ride. You're going to be helping me. Why don't I help you? So I gave him a ride home in my 1977 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale. And he was watching me. He said, you really like this car, don't you? I said, it's been in my family a long time. Sis, it was actually at one time grandma's car. Our grandma, it was actually her car at one time. Dad even drove this car at one time. So 3 generations of us drove it. It was awesome. But took the car home, took him home, and he said, there you go. Really? Don't worry. We'll fix that. But anyhow, what ends up happening, there's some funny stories I know about my grandma, who, by the way, is about, I think if I remember correctly, she's getting ready to turn 95, 96. I mean, she's getting there. But Sober Man basically says, you remember that big blue book that you bought today? Well, it was real funny because he says, Prince Magnum, what do you want from me? And I said, because everyone kept asking me, do you have a job? Do you have a car? Do you have money? Do you have cigarettes? I'm like, does this dude think that I want, do they think I want money from him? That I'm at. And I said, what do you mean? He said, why did you ask me to sponsor you? And I looked at Sober Man and I said, I heard you talk the other night in the meeting, and I liked what you had to say. And I said, I can't, I don't know how to stay stopped And I figure I have to try something right now because right now I'm miserable. And all I want to do is die. I don't even know if this is going to work for me, but I have to try something. And he's kind of does this in his chair. And he said, "Okay, remember that big blue book that you bought today? Let's pick that up and let's take a look at it." We opened up this book. I'd already been to 2 meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, so I already had, was getting into this thing. But the real introduction to what AA is all about began right here. And I'm going to tell you all, this is my original book for Alcoholics Anonymous. I actually had at one point had to have it completely reconditioned and restored. This book has been restored so I could use it again. Thanks to our folks over at the Bonne Terre Library. They took good care of me on this. From there, we started getting into the first step. And I remember telling Tanya, I'm starting the first step. And I don't know what to do. She's like, just keep going. You're going to be fine. You got a sponsor. He knows what he's doing. How long has he been sober? I said 15 years at that time. And she's like, just stick with him. You're going to be okay. And at this time, I was already starting to go through withdrawals. Tanya was the one that when I would go through the painful withdrawals, she would hold me while I would cry because of the immense amount of pain I was in. It would hurt. Oh my God, it would hurt. And I would just sit there. I remember just crying on her shoulder and saying, I just want the pain to stop. Another drink will make the pain go away. And she's like, your ass, you drink again and I'm going to beat the fuck out of you. We're going to get through this. I swear to God, if you pick up a drink, I will beat the piss out of you because I don't want to have to keep going through this anymore. She's like, just hang in there. She's like, we're going to get through this. And I'd cry saying, it just hurts, Tanya. It feels like even the ends, right? There probably is this. And I said, I would cry and say, it even feels like the ends of my hair hurt. And there is no nerve endings there. And she's like, I know, hang in there. And I would cry on her shoulder. And, so I went through the first step and got to the second step, kind of struggled a little bit with the second step. But then by this time, Sober Man's sponsor, Jim started telling Sober Man, it sounds like he's got this down. Let him go. Don't hold him back. He sounds like he's going to get this. I got a good feeling about this one, Sober Man. Just stick with him. Okay, Jim. And he kind of released the reins a little bit, and we went through the third step. And we got through the third step, and the true story, for the record, there is no race to get to, through your initial walk through the steps. It's not a race, okay? It is not a race. However, it took me 4 months and 1 week to get through all 12 steps. I'm one of those overachieving assholes, That's kind of how it is. So here I am, I get through the third step, and Sober Man says, "Okay, we got to start on the fourth step, and I want you, so I want you to go ahead and start, sitting down with your fourth step." And I got nervous about it because, I would go into, Sober Man's home and I would sit at the end of he had this couch that to this day is still known as the sober couch. I would sit on the sober couch that was against the wall near the front door because if he heard anything out of me that you know that would get him angry, I wanted to be close enough to the door where I could just leave, that quickly. That's how it was. I figured if you knew me, if you knew who I was, you wouldn't want me around. You wouldn't like me. It was like that. So there I was, you know. So now we're getting ready to go into my fourth step. And, there was this whole writing thing that I had to do. And there you go. In some cases, it usually does take years. In my case, I'm an overachieving asshole. But anyhow, so there, he basically he said it's time to start your fourth step, and basically over the course of that first like month, month and a half, because Tanya got to see me make 1 month, and now it's time to start my fourth step. I got really scared, and I'm like, oh my God, he's not going to want to sponsor me after this and everything. And Tanya's like, take it easy, you're going to be fine. Well, the next day, have you started on your fourth step? And I said, nope, not yet. And next day, have you started on your fourth step? Not yet. And finally, Sober Man says, Prince Magnum, I thought you were willing to go to any lengths to get this. All right. That's right, Kevin. It took me long enough. And I said to, I was like, all right, fine. Now, I've told you how Tanya helped me and everything. What's going on, LSB? I know you're lurking, buddy. I've been telling you how Tanya helped me, when I would go through withdrawals, she would hold me. I would cry on her shoulder and everything. And finally, I will say in that month and a half that I was going through my steps and everything, and Tanya would hold me when I would go through withdrawals, I fell in love with her. But she was dating a friend of mine, so I didn't want to say anything. That, and, I mean, she was getting ready to go through a divorce, and she was dating a friend of mine, so I didn't think it was right. Keep that shit to yourself at this point. I've done enough damage for one lifetime. But I fell in love with her. I'm single. She's getting ready to be single. Like that. So I kept it to myself. And, it was out of respect, out of respect. What's going on, Potato Man? Welcome to the live stream. Telling the story of my sobriety. Sit back, relax. You'll love it. Welcome to the live stream. So, here I am, I'm in love with her, and, I'm getting ready to start my fourth step, and I'm like, I will do this fourth step, but I won't do it until I talk to Tanya. I called her up. This is on a Tuesday. I still remember it. I called her up, and I said, Tanya, I got to talk to you. She said, what's on your mind? And I said, I owe you my life. You're a special woman. And I started kind of pouring my heart out. I said, I'm not going to start my fourth step until I tell you some important things, how I feel. And I basically started telling her, at one point I told her, I said, people talk about living angels among us. You are one of them. You are a living angel. I pity the entire world because I know you and they don't. I said, I'm blessed because I know you. I said, I owe you everything. I said, I'm getting help and I feel good. I feel good about life again. I think I've got a shot, you know? I said, that's great. And I said, I just want you to know that you are the most important person that has ever come into my life. At that time, I was 26, you know? And I said, I don't know what I'd done without you. um, that being said, she actually said, no one has ever said anything like that to me. Well, I'm saying it. Maybe I'm saying what everybody's already been thinking. This was on a Tuesday. Later on um, that week, it's Friday, and Tanya starts feeling sick. She goes into the hospital with what looks like pneumonia. And she was such a special woman that the entire evening crew clocks out from work. When we clock out from work at the end of our shift, we all went over to the hospital and sat in the waiting room. That's right. That's right. You know, we all sit in the waiting room and waiting to hear something. They wouldn't allow us back. And the next day, I ended up having to work a double, so I didn't get to see Tanya. So this is Saturday. And my best friend, who was dating Tanya at the time, goes over to see her. And he says, she said, you know, could you do me a favor? I think there might be something wrong. I might be okay, but there might be something wrong. I don't know. But could you tell Prince Magnum to come in? I need to talk to him about something. And from there, um, you know, my buddy tells me, and I said, okay. And I'm sitting there, you know, and I basically told work to fuck off the next day. I wasn't going in. You know, you guys keep making me work all these extra hours every time you turn around. I'm trying to get sober, you know, uh, you know, I'm not coming in tomorrow at all. And what are you going to do about it? You know, sort of thing. So it was like that. And they're like, okay, fine. We'll cover your shift. Okay. So that day, you know, here I am. I'm in love with this woman. And I'm like, I'm going to tell her. I'm going to tell her. Screw it. We're going to do this. I put on a nice button down shirt. I still got the shirt, believe it or not. I don't wear it very often. Still got it was a black silk shirt with oriental white dragons all over it, real nice looking. Black jeans, these nice looking zip up dress boots. It almost looked like cowboy boots, but they weren't. And um, you know, had a nice jacket on and all that, and I went in with a dozen of roses in hand. I go to ask to go back and talk to Tanya, and her sister comes out and says, Prince Magnum, you can't go back. Tanya's in a coma. I'm like, what? Tanya is in a coma. She actually died twice before you got here. They brought her back. She's in a coma. I was shocked. So there I am, you know, with a dozen of roses sitting in a waiting room, a bunch of people around. I only know her sister. And this gentleman walks up and he says, who are you? I said, well, I said, I'm, you know, Prince Magnum. I work with Tanya. Oh, okay. Um, all right, cool. And I said, may I ask who you are, sir? Well, I'm her dad. And I said, and I jumped to my feet and I said, Sir, I'd like to shake shake the hand of the man whose daughter saved my life. And he says, excuse me? And I said, sir, your daughter saved my life. And I told him my story up to that point, because at that point I was a month and a half sober. And he, at the end of me telling him that, he puts his arm around me. He says, son, if you need anything, you say the word, okay? We're going to get through this mess. And, it's basically by 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm tired, I'm exhausted. And I told him, I said, I got to go home, get some rest. I don't live that far from here. And he said, okay, go home, get some rest. Okay, we'll see you. He said, you're going to come back in later? I said, yeah, I'll be here. I said, I'll come in about 7 o'clock. So I slept for a few hours, sort of, kind of. Called Sober Man when I got home, told him what was going on and everything. And he said, okay, keep me posted. Go back in. They said that through the night that Tanya had died one more time. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. Tanya had died one more time. They brought her back. And basically, who was going to be her ex-husband, but her dad kind of talked it out. It's not my decision. And basically came to the conclusion if they lost her one more time, that they were going to have to let her go. She's 27 years old, 4 children, and if she went one more time, they were going to have to let her go. Her dad basically looked at all of us, all of her family and all of us friends of Tanya, and said, we're going to start letting people here in a little bit go back and start saying their goodbyes. We want you all to start saying your goodbyes. It doesn't look good. It basically, if she would have pulled through it, she would have been a vegetable. Y'all have to excuse me. It's been 14 years and I still get emotional on this, okay? So I apologize. I know at some point they do let us friends go back. And we go back, and my best friend, who was dating her, right across on the other side of her bed, along with another friend of ours, and there I am on one side by myself. All these tubes and hoses and everything sticking out of her. And I held her hand. Her hand was so cold. I held her hand, and the rest of us, the 3 of us that were there, I was the only one who had the courage, I guess you could say, to say, it's okay if you want to let go. We'll make it. We'll be all right. It had to be me. And I took, and y'all know that I'm pagan, but I read her favorite passage out of the Bible. I don't even remember, and I took a 1-month coin. Somehow I ended up with 2 1-month coins. And I, laid it on her chest while holding her hand. And I said, Tanya, whatever happens, wherever you go, I want you to keep this with you, because without you, I wouldn't have this. Because of you, I'm sober today. I go to work. This is at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 p.m. My director of nursing comes back at 6 o'clock. And she says, Prince Magnum, I got some bad news for you. And I'm glad you're sitting down. Tanya just passed away. March 20th, 2006. I said goodbye to the person who talked me into getting to sobriety at 1.5 months sober. Don't worry, it still has a happy ending. I had to say goodbye. It was her time. The hardest part is she passed away before I had a chance to tell her I was in love with her. That was, give me a second, I'm sorry. I apologize. Still kind of a toughie. After the funeral, I did the only thing I knew what to do. We don't know. We still don't know, Mr. Cartoon. But what ended up happening was I did the only thing I knew what to do. I picked up the fourth step and kept on working. And I will say, on her deathbed, thank you, Chairman. While she was on her deathbed, they tell us not to do stuff like this, but while holding her hand, I said, Tanya, you always hear about those winners in Alcoholics Anonymous, the real winners. I promise you, and I know they tell us not to do this, but I promise you, I will be one of those winners. As of today, I try to go every year on my 1-year anniversary of sobriety. I try to go. And I remember, Sober Man, I remember telling this story, and Princess Faye hearing it for the first time when she heard this story. We went to Tanya's grave, and Princess Faye left her a letter thanking her for everything. At that time, we were just not, hadn't been married that long, but she left Tanya a letter thanking her for saving my life. And then eventually we would meet and be married, and thanked her for everything. I'll be honest with you. There's still a lot of mystery surrounding her passing. For example, I'm talking to her on a Tuesday. No. Princess Faye never met Tanya. Never met her. But she's been to her grave. I met Princess Faye when I was 30. We met online when I was 30 years old. And at that time, I was 3 years sober. We don't know. We don't know what happened. Nobody knows. But on Tuesday, um, if you all remember, I told her how I started telling her how I felt, even though I'd never actually said the words that I love you. Here's the speculation, right? Well, here's on Wednesday, she's talking to our director of nursing in the nursing home I'm working in. Oh, Cat. Name was she went by Cat, and she tells Cat, I think I made a mistake, and you know, um, I think there's someone I need to talk to and spend some time with, kind of that whole thing, and then of course Thursday she starts feeling a little under the weather. By Friday she's in the hospital. Then she's telling my best friend by Saturday that they did autopsy was inconclusive. They don't even have a clue. So that was again. So on Saturday, she was asking to talk to me, that there was something important she needed to talk to me about. So here's the speculation that she already knew. And she was going to tell me that she knew how I felt about her. So that is the biggest speculation. And of course, there's a lot of women out there that will actually say that they think that Tanya sent Princess Faye to take care of me. There's a lot of women that swear up and down. Princess Faye doesn't really like that so much. No, no, she drank, but not like that. Oh, good. Oh, coffee needs to kick in a little harder there. But there's that debate. I don't get involved in that debate. I don't know. I really don't know. But there are some people that think that Princess Faye was sent by Tanya to take care of me, and that's why we're together. I work at 4 o'clock in the morning, sis. Right? So there you have that. Um, so I get through the steps, and now I start sponsoring somebody. I'm actually dating a gal. Having a good time in sobriety. You guys would have loved to have seen me. Matter of fact, hang on a second here. Hang on here. Right? Hang on. You guys are going to love this. My 27th birthday, I also made 6 months sober. 6 months sober. Oh, really? Yep. Right, A&R? Right? So, it's good to see you, A&R. You're going to love this. This is a picture of the gal I was with when I was 6 months sober, and it was my 27th birthday, the same exact day. She had an entire surprise party all done up for me. Good to see you, A&R. That was us. That was my ex, and I ended up having my son Devin. But that was me on my 27th birthday. Isn't that awesome? Oh, Night, Kevin. Thank you for being in here with us. Appreciate that. I'm sorry I kind of briefly missed it. Oh, thank you, A&R. I appreciate you being here. You're an awesome guy, you know that? You think I look the same? That was me at 27. 27 years old. Not a joke. Um, by the way, remember that 357 Magnum? I appreciate you, man. Thank you again for being here. Oh, Chairman, you're off to bed? I understand, brother. Rest well. Real quick. Real quick. It was the way the light was hitting my eyes. Uh, that's just the way it was. But real quick, y'all remember the 357 Magnum that I was going to use on myself that I was talking about? Every firearm in this picture was mine. That was me back then. That was me. Matter of fact, the next day, on my 6 month, on my 27th birthday itself, right? Exactly. The next day, we go to Six Flags, and this is 6 months sober, my 27th birthday, the same exact day. Again, I did not plan that. That was right there. That was us. And that was when I was a lot more physically fit back then. Oh my gosh, I was in great shape. Right. But yeah, that was my ex. No, the rifle was for Magnum carbine made by Ruger. The same exact design as the Mini 14. But yeah, I was all muscular even for my size back then. But yeah, so that was me. Then the next day I was sitting in my home group, my AA home group. I'm 6 months sober today. And I'll tell you a funny story. When I said, hello, my name is Prince Magnum. I'm an alcoholic. Hi, Prince Magnum. As of yesterday, it's been 6 months since my last drink. And the whole room erupted in applause. And sober man stands up. He said, you're going to have to get up for this. And he says, I'm doing very well. Thank you, Chad, for being here. Telling the story, I'm telling some old sobriety stories. So I stand up, and sober man says, I want you all to know that Prince Magnum has worked his steps. He's actually sponsoring somebody. I was a dangerous person back then, Mr. Cartoon. Very dangerous back then. And he says, he has worked his steps. He's worked, all those things like that. And he said, he's an absolute joy in my life. And I'm very proud of our Prince Magnum. And, he hands me my 6 month coin. And him and I both started crying like I'd just been pulled from a car accident, you know. And we both started crying. The whole room just went nuts for it. Went nuts. And, everyone kept saying, you and Sober Man are just so. No, Chad's not a troll. Different account, though. No, that Chad's okay. Chad's okay. Don't worry, sis. Don't worry. He's awesome. No, Chad's all right. Chad's all right. Watch his back for us, though. He's one of us. Chad's one of us. Just watch his back for me, okay? Don't let nobody harass him. So basically, in a real quick, Chad, uh, Hannah, Hannah's my little sister. She gets kind of protective. She gets kind of protective over her older brother. Uh, so you know, so that and sis. So that was basically, that was 6 months sober. At 1 year we cried. I think we got enough mods right now. We might do that. We might do that. No, might do that. So basically, at 1 year sober, I remember being up in St. Louis at a meeting, and everyone's like, "Oh, this guy's so awesome," and I'm like, "Shoot, my sponsor is what makes this awesome." That used to be our thing. Sober Man and I used to go up to St. Louis together, and we would always go up there with maybe a couple other alcoholics and just a couple of friends. And usually those couple of friends was maybe a guy I was sponsoring and his girlfriend and Soberman and Mrs. Soberman and the girlfriend I would be with. And that was my 1 year sobriety birthday. It was a big ordeal. I mean, it was always a big deal. I mean, oh my goodness, it was a big deal. Um, you know, and it was always just such a big deal. It was awesome. It was a great time. Um, Sober, well, the Sober Man got his name because he was going to put on some skit at oh no. Soberman gave how he got that name is because he was going to do this skit at some convention that he was at. Him and some other guys were supposed to put on like this superhero skit, and it just kind of stuck. And he got called Soberman because of how enthusiastic he gets about sobriety, and that's how it all came about. Sober Man took me to my very first AA convention, and that was so awesome. I met some awesome people there. As a matter of fact, I actually got to shake the hands of a guy that got sober in 1940. That was freaking sweet. I got to shake the guy that guy was sponsoring. He got sober in 41. It was cool. I mean, it was huge being in a meeting like that, and being in a huge convention like that. Oh yeah. Um, Five Corners here in the Five Corners Convention in Sikeston, Missouri. Probably the only free AA convention still left in the world, and it was so awesome. I love going. Yeah. You know, it was an amazing meeting, amazing, and I met some wonderful people there. Um, as a matter of fact, sober man oftentimes if I because they had little meetings throughout the day too. Sober man would sit there and just kind of, that's my sponsee. I'm proud of that. It was amazing. That a guy. Hey, thank you, A&R. Much love to you, brother. Appreciate you again being in here. I mean, it was an amazing time. That there's so many people that are my age. I'm 40 years old, going on 41. There's a lot of people that I know that'll say, "Oh, I wish I could go back to high school." No, I would love to relive that time frame from 26, when I first got sober, to 27. I would love to live it again, minus the heartache. Probably from when I was 6 months to 1 year. I would love to live that again. I remember looking at Sober Man and saying, it seems like my birthday party slash 6 month party hasn't stopped. It's not. Is that okay? Does it feel like? I said I'm still having fun. Is it okay to have that to continue like that? Is that okay? And he's like, hell yeah, it's okay. He said, ride the wave. Who said that the other shoe has to drop, Prince Magnum? Ride the wave. Ride the wave. He was one of the first ones that told me it's perfectly okay to have fun in sobriety. And it's okay to shout out from the rooftops that you hush up, Blacklight. You hush up. My little sister is innocent. She's a little angel. Shut up. She just got an attitude problem. No. 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 Leave me in the dark. No, sis. No. My little innocent sister right there, she don't know nothing like that. No. No. Anyhow, so all of that being said, you know, all of that being said, I've had a lot of fun in sobriety. No, sis. I will say right now, I got married in sobriety. 3 of my children have never seen me drunk. I've even made the made the pact with the God of my understanding that I would not bring harm to anyone unless I was given no other choice. I went from being one of the most violent, hateful people on the planet to someone that wants to help people, wants to help them, wants them to feel good about life, to find happiness, to enjoy the positive life. My own wife has watched me stand in front of over 200, I think it was like 260 something alcoholics, just like me, talk for about 5 minutes. There are people that still come up and tell me I was there that day. Hi, honey. Heard me talking about you. My wife has got to see me do some really awesome stuff, in sobriety. She's even watched me make 14 years sober. The day that I'm turning 14 years sober, she's watching me be a pallbearer. And, from my grandmother, my grandma on my mom's side had just passed away. And my mom, my whole family's devastated. My wife was right there. How you doing, TFC Gaming? My wife was right there. And she watched me be a pallbearer. And bury my grandmother. And I did it on the day I turned 14 years sober. If y'all remember, I was late on that, and why? Because I wanted to do this big celebration and everything. It wasn't meant to be that day. I had to go home and be a grandson. I had to go home and be a son, be a big brother, be dad, be a husband, be an uncle, all of those things. I had to go home and take care of my family. It was tough. We got through it. My mom looked at the family and said, and this is all happening in sobriety. That day, looked right at my whole family and said, looked at my whole family on that side of the family, and said, my son is on YouTube. He's becoming a famous man. He does custom cars and he does romance. He knows how to treat a woman. And my mom um, was telling all the whole family how proud she was. And that happened to me in sobriety. I've had amazing stuff happen in sobriety, but I've still had to face heartache, just like everybody else. When I look back on the first step, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives are unmanageable. Hey, I understand. I understand TFC Gaming. When I look back on that first step, powerless over alcohol, my life is unmanageable. I I'm still powerless over alcohol, but you know what? Oh, honey, you know the story has a happy ending. When I look back at it, I'm still powerless over alcohol, but today I don't manage life, I live it one day at a time. And I can do it sober. I don't have to live my life out of the bottom of a bottle. I can go up to people and talk to them without having to be drunk. I don't make a mess of things like I used to. I'm People love me for who I am. People like being around me for who I am. I have an awesome car. I got a beautiful wife that bought me that awesome car. I have family that loves me, and I have all of you that continue to support me. We'll get y'all patched up when you get home, honey. I'll give you a massagey and back scratchies. How's that sound? So again, you know, yes, you heard a lot of sadness in the story, but it's not a sad story. I had to go through what I went through to be who I am today. Don't take that from me. Yes, you heard heartache and you heard pain, but I stayed sober. I stayed sober. So even if you don't get anything out of the story tonight except for one thing, I hope that one thing is, if you are alcoholic like me and there is no way out, no matter, other than through help, you can get sober. You can get sober if you want it, but you got to want it. You guys are now part of the story that I tell. Think for a moment. Just think for that absolute moment, just that brief moment. You guys are sitting here in the live stream. You just heard the story of how Prince Magnum, what he was like before he got sober. You know, and here we are. You guys listen to that story. You guys are now part of the story. There'll come a day I'll be in an AA meeting, God knows where, telling how I was doing a live stream. And there was all these people that came in to hear my story. And they listened to me and they told me thank you. And they told me they were proud of me. You guys are part of the story now. You're part of my story. And you all heard Tanya's story. So her story hasn't died. You guys are part of that story now, too. You heard her story. And through her story, she's not really gone. She's with us all now. So, who was it that asked for a happy ending? We have a happy ending so far. We have a happy ending. I'm still alive. I'm still here. And 14 years later, I'm still sober. How is that? And for the record, when I turn 41 this year on August the 7th, it'll be 14 and a half years without a drink or a drug. All me, just a God of my understanding, members of Alcoholics Anonymous, and all of you out there who continue to support me. It's all of you that continue also to help me. You guys are part of the story now. I wonder how all of you feel about now being a part of this story. Give me your thoughts real quick. How do you all feel now that you're part of my story? So many of you. Because you guys are amazing. If you've ever wondered now, I was there when Prince Magnum talked about it, you know. I was there in that live stream. I heard it. You should. I feel blessed that you all are here with me. I mean, it's amazing. Don't feel sad. Don't feel scared. Feel blessed. You're part of my story. See what I mean? Don't be sad. The story has a happy ending. You guys are part of the story now. You're part of my story. I am not original, but I am a great mosaic of a lot of wonderful people, including you all in the Maverick Nation. I'm just a great mosaic, you know, of all of the wonderful people that it took to help me get to this point. So if you've ever all wondered how special you really are, that's how special. I enjoyed this. I just feel like a great big weight's been lifted off my shoulders. You know, that you guys shared this with me. It was amazing. It felt so strong, so powerful. It was just, wow, I feel better, So now that we have done that, for those that do not know, one of the things that sis, for those that do not know, here on the Prince Magnum channel, here on the Prince Magnum channel for our recorded content, we use these really awesome cameras, these amazing digital cameras, that are 1080 pixel HD cameras. And they mount right to these little mounts on our windshields to get the awesome shots that go out over the hood of Project Spirit and Project Lena. These cameras are so amazing, we use them for everything. Unfortunately, because they're dash cams, right, because they're dash cams, there is no other mounts other than what's for inside the cars. And I decided to, since these are such great cameras, maybe I should make my own camera stand for these cameras. So what I did is I went in behind HQ, and going in behind HQ, I cut down, this tree and cut out a section of wood from this tree. And then I went to fashioning my own camera stand. This is the actual camera stand that I made. And I basically carved out this section right here. And Basically, the camera just lays right like that. Then I had to carve out a section right here for the camera lens to sit on there. You've all seen how that works, right? Well, to get this section right here, what I had to do was I took this file right here, this half moon shaped file, and I laid it down on this block of wood and worked it back and forth until it made this nice, perfect groove. So the camera sits in there perfectly. So that, poor Sean, that basically means that because I took this file right here and used it on this block of wood, that means that I'm good at filing and should try my hand at being a secretary. Poor Sean, I think he just missed it. I think he missed it. There's that plug. We're in the office. I had to tell this. Put it clean. Oh my goodness. You know. So what did you guys enjoy this? Think different. I know you enjoyed this. Think different. Probably took you guys down some interesting avenues, some stuff you guys did not know. You know. Telling this story, it was absolutely amazing to be able to take y'all down memory lane like this. So, all right. I mean, this is normally when I tell my story, yeah, I know you've been here the whole time. Think different. You've got my email address. You know how to get a hold of me. Okay. You need me, you call me, okay? And that goes for any of y'all. Y'all need me, you know to give me a holler, okay? Well, you got to remember, okay? Black Light, I understand it was dark in a lot of areas. A lot of it does sound dark. You know, it does sound really dark, but you got to understand in order to enjoy and appreciate the good in your life, you have to go through bad, okay? In God's world, it is perfect. But when you add in the human factor, it's not so perfect, okay? So in order for me to fully appreciate the good in my life, I had to go through the bad. And by telling my story like this, to let people know that I got sober and that bad things even happened in my sobriety. You totally get it. And that's the important point. That one of the things that we say in AA, if you have a problem with alcohol, that is your problem. But if you want help with that problem with alcohol, it's our problem together. Today, I have so many of you out there, so many of you that are kind and wonderful to be with me in these live streams, to listen to my story, to, to sit with me and, that sort of thing. There always has to be a dark time in your life. You guys, today, that's right, Black Light. Today, all of you are now, again, a part of the story. You guys are the Maverick Nation. You guys are that awesome. That's how amazing every last one of you are. Take that to heart. When I say that you guys are that amazing, I mean it. You are now part of the Prince Magnum story. You guys help me stay sober. Little did you know. I do need to jump off here. This stream took me a good long while, and it was well worth it. Well worth it. Sharing this story with you guys. Feel like I could take the world on now. Oh my goodness. From the bottom of my heart, thank you all for being here. Now, as I wind this down, there is something very special that I would like to read for all of you. Something so important. Do you all remember at a certain point in this stream when I said that I only remember two things from that meeting? Meeting Sober Man, who still sponsors me today, and hearing a reading that was so special to me. I would like to read that for you all right now. On page 164 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm probably going to get a little emotional because this is still this special to me. So if you all are wondering where I'm at in this book, it's on 164, last couple of paragraphs. Our book is meant to be suggestive only. We realize we only know a little. God will constantly disclose more to you and to us. Ask him in your morning meditation what you can do each day for the man who is still sick. The answers will come. If your own house is in order, but obviously you cannot transmit something you haven't got, see to it that your relationship with him is right, and great events will come to pass for you and countless others. This is the great fact for us. Abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find and join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us as we trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Third Gen, I know you've been here the whole time. You've been taking this in. As we begin to wind it down. Sean, just for you, I'm going to do the joke again. Okay. One of the things that I have done here on the Prince Magnum channel is we actually have these amazing digital cameras, these 1080 pixel HD cameras, and these cameras are so great. There are dash cams for Project Spirit and Project Lena. So to get those amazing shots that go out over the hood of Project Spirit and Project Lena, they come from these amazing cameras. Unfortunately, because they're dash cams, there is no other camera mounts for them. And we use these cameras for everything. They're great. But because there is no other camera mounts for them, I decided that I was going to make my own camera stand for these cameras. So what I did was I went in behind HQ and cut down a tree that, because normally the city comes through and cuts these trees down anyways and hauls the brush off. So I figured, well, I'll put some of that wood to use. I said wood. Now that I've said that, I cut out a section of wood, I brought it in, and basically I carved out this section right here. And now the camera just sits in there right like that. But for the camera lens, I needed to carve out a spot right here. And what I did was to carve out this spot right here is I took this half moon shaped file right here. And I laid it down on top of this block of wood and I worked it back and forth until I got it perfect right in there. So now the camera lens sits right there. So because I used this file right here on this block of wood, that must mean I'm really good at filing and should try my hand at being a secretary. I'm waiting for it. Sean's favorite joke. I had to do it for him. Just for him. Queen, I don't think that joke ever gets tired and tiring on this channel. Maybe his internet stopped working. Oh man, that would suck. All right, folks, but that does bring us to a stop where I stop this stream. Again, thank every last one of you for being here with me again today. And as a reminder, for all of you, at day's end, I hope all of you need me as much as I need you. Every one of you out there. I hope you all need me as much as I need you. And as we go leaving this live stream, I want all of you to remember, if no one out there has told any of you that they love you today, Prince Magnum does. God bless you and have a happy 24. Thank you.